this is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at the Motorola Droid Ultra, available on Verizon Wireless, $199 with contract. A lot of the Moto X inside of here, to be honest. All your internals, the features are pretty much the same as the Moto X, just a different casing, distinctive Droid look right here. Definitely getting thinner over the last model here of Droid that we saw. Still Kevlar, but glossy finish. We're going to look at it now. So here it is, the Droid Ultra, the latest in the Droid line by Motorola, available on Verizon Wireless. It still has that kind of distinctive look with the kind of taper at the top and at the bottom over here that speaks a little to that Droid design language by Motorola. From the front, you can see, probably tell already, this is an AMOLED display here, the hyper vivid colors that we have. Not so color skewed maybe as on some of the old Super AMOLED displays that we saw on some Samsung Galaxy phones of old. I don't mean the Galaxy S4, I mean some older ones, but still particularly punchy colors, very nice looking. I bet that people walk into a store and they take a look at this and they find it rather captivating because of the colors, and it's also quite sharp. It's a nice looking display. The bad thing, it's a flagship phone with a 720p display, 1280 by 720 pixels right here coming at you. That is not really looking really competitive when you talk about the full HD 1920 by 1080 displays on competitors like the HTC One and the Galaxy S4. That said, this display is really actually a very nice display, and I think, again, most people would pick up the phone, they'd even read some text on a web page. Right here we have a little text on our CNN page. It's quite sharp. There's no staircasing. The white background is fairly white. There's no obnoxious color bias. It's colorful. It's nice looking. So is it the end of the world that it's not 1920 by 1080? No, it's not in my book. As you can see, we have capacitive buttons right here at the bottom. We don't have on-screen buttons, so you're not losing any screen real estate to those buttons. I'm quite happy with capacitive buttons myself. And one thing that's really brilliant here is the little design things that somehow people were forgetting to do in the past year. When the backlighting is off, you want them to still be white so you can see them. And there they are. You don't have to go hunting for them. Good times. Now, if we take a look at the back, this is where we go, I don't know. It's still Kevlar. Kevlar is a nifty space-age material that is very strong and very durable. And if you look really close, you can see the pattern here. There, you can see the Kevlar, but they put a big, heavy gloss coating on it. A little page out of Samsung's playbook. And, you know, nobody's really excited by gloss right now. Everybody keeps complaining about Samsung's glossiness. And you can see our camera is even having trouble focusing on it because it is such a mirror right there. Okay, now that I picked on it, it's not an ugly phone by any means. It's still a very attractive phone. It's also available in red. Really pretty neat looking in red. I like the red. Still Kevlar on the back. And to compare the difference, here's our old traditional Razr phone right here with the matte finish where you really can see the Kevlar and all that kind of thing. So, you know, I leave it up to you. Maybe you think the shiny stuff is nice. It's a unibody kind of design phone. That is, you can't take the back off. The 2130 milliamp battery is sealed inside. You can see we have our camera here, 10 megapixel camera with an LED flash. Up top we have our headphone jack. And it's a very thin phone, as you can see, really slimming down a lot. In fact, let's take out our old Razr again and compare them. And gone is, of course, the camera hump that we used to have on some of the older models, too. Now it's just a gradual taper, so it feels nicer in the hand. Nothing on the side here. Chin tapers down just a little bit there. Feels kind of nice. Micro USB port right there for charging and data transfer. And on this side, this is pretty funky. What's not funky is that your power button's right here in a normal place. These are your volume controls. They have a kind of rough texture, and as you can see, they stick out a little bit. So you can find them and feel them. Now what's weird is your volume controls are where your SIM card slot is. So you yank on that, get your fingernail underneath, and you can see they're coming out. So you haven't broken your phone if suddenly your volume controls come out. And there it is, teeny weeny little SIM card right there. Fascinating, isn't it? There is no SD card slot on this. It has 16 gigs of storage, so that's what you got to work with for internal storage. Also on the back, the speaker here, oversized speaker. It's mono, so you don't get that neat stereo thing you get with the HTC One, but it is pretty darn loud without distorting, so that's a nice feature. The Droid Ultra is the middle child in the 2013 Droid Motorola family for Verizon. There's going to be the Droid Mini with a 4.3-inch display. This guy here, $199, and then there's going to be the Droid Max, which basically is the same phone, just a little thicker, a little heavier. This is 4.94 ounces, by the way, because it's going to have a much larger battery inside, kind of like the Droid Razor Max that you're used to, and that one is going to be $299 on contract. Now for a size comparison with some other phones, 5-inch display on our Droid Ultra here, 5-inch display on our Samsung Galaxy S4. So you can see the Droid Ultra is just a teeny bit taller. In terms of width, you're looking at about the same thing. In terms of thickness, both very skinny phones. In terms of shininess, both shiny phones. Although the white doesn't show the shine as much on the white version of the Samsung Galaxy S4. And now we have it next to the HTC One with its gorgeous unibody metal design, aluminum there, so you can see the difference in looks. In terms of size, 4.7-inch display on the HTC One, but we're looking at about the same overall size in the hand. So Motorola did a fairly good job of keeping things compact. Going that way. And now from our front view, HTC One definitely gets the nod for having the sharpest display with the most natural colors there. Not super duper hyper vibrant, but wow, is that super duper nice and sharp. Back here we got, well, no surprise, we have Android. This is the slightly customized, you know, this is the interesting thing. It's not full of Moto Blur. You remember Moto Blur? That was kind of obnoxious for a while, wasn't it? Gone is Moto Blur. What we have here looks mostly like stock Android. Instead, what Motorola's been focusing on since they got bought by Google is usability features, and we'll show you what those mean, but that includes being able to talk to the phone even when the screen's off and tell it to do things instead of mucking around with the UI. So the UI is pretty much standard Android 4.2.2. Just because they're owned by Google doesn't mean they come out the gate with 4.3. Not showing any favorites there. This is one custom item right here. It's kind of your little Droid control panel. You get your clock, you get the weather, you can set your alarm clock right from here if you want. You got your battery status. Other than that, it's just several home screens. We have a nice little Google Now widget. I like that one particularly well. So you don't actually have to launch Google Now to get to it. Amazon and Verizon are still real friendly. So on this phone, we have a whole lot of Amazon applications. We have the Amazon Store. We have Amazon Kindle, Amazon MP3, Amazon App Store. And we have Audible as well. So you got plenty of Amazon-owned content there on the phone. Other than that, you've got some Verizon applications. To be expected, their mobile hotspot, which is really just to help you out getting your mobile hotspot up and running. NFL Mobile. My Verizon Mobile's on board. VZ Navigator, Verizon Tones, Verizon Security, usual standard stuff. They got their little setup wizard on board, and everything else is just pure Google applications. Standard looking, again, pretty much interface, and we can tap over here to see our widgets. Nothing too wildly different added on. We've got some things like the Audible widget, the Amazon MP3 widget here. You got your Amazon content on board. Other than that, pretty much your standard Google Android widgets, digital clock, your contacts, direct calling, the Droid Command Center that you saw on our homepage, email, Gmail, Google Books, all the normal stuff that you would expect. It's there. Notice there's a Quick Office widget. We actually have the full version of Quick Office on the phone, so you can view, edit, and create MS Office compatible documents, which is nice. Camera right there if you want to launch it, 10 megapixel, but wait, remember we talked about those Motorola usability kind of features? Well, there's one here, so you can launch the camera. Are you starting to feel like you're watching a Samsung review, aren't you? Yeah, there's a lot of these nifty little usability things added on. You can do this, and if you're lucky, you'll actually launch the camera. Now, it's a little hard for me to do. You might have an easier time, but eventually we may launch the camera. There we go. And now we have launched the camera. So, shake to wake. There it is for our camera. I'll leave that up to you whether you think that's useful. The camera itself, while we're talking about it, has a very simple UI. Then they call this a good thing, that it has a simple UI. And the average person would probably be like, well, what do I do? What do I do? So you swipe in like this, and here we know Google loves their rings for controlling stuff. I like this better than the touch pop-up in the center that they use on vanilla Android, though. It's a little bit easier to control. There are not a huge number of settings here. We have our HDR mode on, off, auto. Flash control right there. Touch to focus, which I have enabled, and I'm turning it back on again now. Slow-mo video, because we can shoot up to 60 frames per second of 1080p video here. And we have our panorama on, panorama off. So pretty simple settings. Now if you want to zoom, you can do pinch zooming, and you can see up in the left corner it is showing me my zoom magnification level. If you pinch in a lot, you'll also bring up that ring. So we can touch the focus, so I can touch just like that. Takes a picture. Now if I press and hold, multiple shots. And if I want to look at the pictures in the gallery, I just swipe in from this side. Of course, it's going to be a lot of pictures because we just did basically burst mode picture taking. Indoor shot right here. Now, I'll tell you, the camera is decent. 10 megapixels. You have good resolution there. Colors and contrast, they're okay. It's not the best camera I've ever seen. It's not a hideous camera, but it's not a super duper camera. Not as good as the Galaxy S4's camera. Some might even prefer the ultra pixel camera on the HTC One as well, because it does so well with low light shots. So it's an okay camera. It's not a brilliant camera. Somehow Motorola is always a little challenge when it comes to making awesome cameras. As you'd expect from a Verizon phone, this has 4G LTE. Reception's been quite good. That's something Motorola is very good at. And it's also capable of GSM world roaming. So if you're traveling abroad, you can still use the phone. That's a nice feature to have. We have Bluetooth 4.0 plus EDR on board, Wi-Fi 802.11 BGN, no AC like the Moto X. But like the Moto X, inside we have a 1.7 gigahertz Snapdragon S4 Pro CPU. Now, the S4 Pro designation is becoming more and more meaningless. We saw the Nexus 7 called an S4 Pro when it had really different cores than you would expect from an S4 Pro. And this one is dual core instead of the usual quad core S4 Pro. So think of it as a dual-core Qualcomm 600, basically. It's got two Cray 300 cores inside, and it does have Adreno 320 graphics. So you've got pretty fast graphics on board. So does that mean it's a lame phone, and why are you paying $199 for 720p and only dual-core? Well, actually, it does very well in synthetic benchmarks, so no, it's not a lame phone. And you have very fast graphics, which really counts for the most when you're playing games, which is pretty much the most demanding thing you can do with your smartphone these days. So I'm not going to say that this is a problem, and given the benchmark scores, you might even agree. Now, Moto calls this their X8 computing platform, and that's because they have some extra processing cores in here to handle voice recognition, because this thing doesn't have just your regular Google Now where you press the button and you wait for it to do something. It's always listening to you. Now, you can turn that feature on and off if you don't want it to always be listening, but let's go ahead and just turn it off. Now, the way you get it to wake up and do whatever it is you want to tell it to do, and pretty much everything you can do with Google Now and Google Voice Command you can do here, is by saying the key phrase, which you can choose your own. By default, they suggest using OK Google Now. And it's going to listen, you see? And it's going to listen to your voice and recognize your voice. You recorded that command, whatever it may be, 3 times so it knows you from me from somebody else. So it's been listening right now and it's quite confused. So let's do that again. Okay, Google Now. Find me Chinese food. And it found me a bunch of Chinese restaurants. So this works for a variety of things. Again, just like Google Now, you can tell it to give you directions. You can ask it what your next appointment is. You can even tell it to launch an application that you have on the device. So it's pretty useful. And it works pretty reliably. Now, you have to be in a fairly quiet environment. You shouldn't be too far from the phone. Right now, my mouth is about 2.5 feet from the phone. It's not going to work from across the room so well, but that's probably a good thing. Another interesting thing they did, and again, a lot of this you'll find on the Moto X as well, is often we touch the phone, we wake it up just to see what time it is, to see what notifications are on the screen, and you don't actually have to wake it up and unlock it to do that. It has a motion sensor in here. So it's on the table now, the screen is black. If I just pick it up, you see? Now, I don't have any notifications right now, but if I did, they would also show up here. So instantly I see if I have any voicemail, if I have email, I can see what time it is. So another little usability thing. The phone really, just like the Moto X, is kind of about the usability stuff, which is nice instead of giving you a whole bunch of fancy features you probably never use. So when I was talking about those pretty good benchmark numbers, on Quadrant it scored 8,581. That is certainly a good number. On Antutu, 18,965. GL Benchmark 2.7, the Egypt off-screen test, it scored 43 frames per second off-screen and 53 frames per second on-screen. Very good. SunSpider 1191. 3D Mark Ice Storm, you can see right here for yourself that it scored 11,356. And for the demo test, it scored 64.3 frames per second. So while the numbers in terms of quadrant speeds aren't quite as good as the Galaxy S4, say that scored 12,600 versus 8,581 on this, you're still looking at a whole lot of speed, and honestly, you're looking at pretty close Antutu benchmark numbers. So no, I wouldn't call this a slow phone by any means. It's quite fast. You can see what our on-screen keyboard looks like here. We'll test out web browsing, which is with the Chrome web browser. That's what Google's latest web browser is. They're trying to kill off their WebKit web browser. No, Adobe Flash Player is not pre-installed. Google's not into that anymore. So here's our full website. Really, the text is pretty sharp and the colors are pretty nice. There's no bizarre color cast here, so I still like this display. The only time I don't like this display is outdoors, where it's really not terribly visible. Just like the Samsung Galaxy S4, it's kind of hard to see. So we'll take a look at our review of the HTC 8XT and play that video so you can see how it plays HTML5 video. And we're using Verizon's 4G LTE network to do this, so you can see data speeds, which are generally speaking quite good in our area on Verizon. And our volume is about 3/4 almost now. Notice.
This is Lisa from Mobile
That's
Tech
loud,
Review,
right?
and today we're going to look at the HTC 8XT, a lot like the 8X.
And we'll full screen it.
A couple of important differences. This time available on Sprint. Yay for you
Good speaker.
Sprinties. You don't get many Windows phones, so this Windows 8 phone is for you. We're going to look at it now. So this is the HTC 8XT.
Smooth, sharp, colorful. Works for me. Now how about data speeds? We've got our speedtest.net application right here. We can run a test right before your eyes. That's right up there with AT&T. We're having a good day on Verizon LTE. And they do cap their upload speed, so those numbers are going to be slower. They figure most people need more download speed than upload speed. So respectable number there, 21 megabits per second and 3.4 for upload, not too bad. And you can see some other results that we've gotten right here, testing around town in different locations. So in general, good data speeds, on par with what we expect to see from a Verizon LTE smartphone. Call quality on the phone has been good, but not super great. I'm surprised. Usually Motorola has pretty good call quality. It still sounds a little digitized to me, sometimes a slight bit muffled. Not terrible, not a deal breaker, but not as good call quality as the HTC One or the Samsung Galaxy S4, I have to say. So lastly, how about gaming? We're going to test out Real Racing 3 to see how it can handle a current and demanding 3D game. And now we're ready to race our wonderful Nissan Silvia. Really, I think this is a very nice looking screen. I really like the colors a lot and the vibrance, and it's quite bright too. And the auto brightness, generally speaking, works pretty well. Never too dim and not too bright. And the game graphics are going to look pretty smooth here, not too much in the way of jaggies. We have our nice rear window view here for our mirrors. See who we can bump out of the way. And this corner where frames can slow down is handling it just fine. Nice sound from the speaker too. So yeah, definitely not a slow phone, definitely one that can handle today's most demanding 3D games. Again, the battery is sealed inside, 2130 milliamps. Now, Motorola is doing some bizarre things when they state battery life. They say with average usage 23 hours or something like that. That includes screen off time. That's very misleading. Generally, when we speak about battery usage time, we talk about actual screen on use time, not how long it's been sitting on your desk, because all these phones have excellent standby. In real life, the battery lasts throughout the day. That is from 7 in the morning until bedtime at night when I want to put it on the charger, which is good for today's modern fast smartphones with a big bright display. So yeah, it's not going to last you 23 hours of use time. Sorry, not actual usage time, but actual screen on time is pretty good though, at about 8 hours or so. It's a little bit better than the Galaxy S4 in fact for that. But then again, you're looking at 2 cores for main computing cores here versus 4 cores on the Samsung, so it should use a little bit less power. What does make it more impressive again is we do have those processors that are always running and listening for your voice should you choose to turn that feature on. So there you have it. A lot like the Moto X in terms of the features, the camera, the processor, the graphics, a lot of that's the same. Really you're looking at kind of different casing here. So if you're a Verizon customer and you're looking for something like the Moto X, this would definitely be the closest. And it is quite a nice phone. And the ergonomics are good too. It feels nice in the hand. So that's the Droid Ultra by Motorola, available on Verizon Wireless. Certainly a very nice looking phone, but it's up against some steep competition, isn't it? The HTC One someday is going to come to Verizon. We have the Galaxy S4. And honestly, a lot of it comes down to whose looks you like better, whose screen you like better, how it feels in hand. This one does feel very nice in hand, and the software too. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full review of the Ultra, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.